Hi everybody, good afternoon and thank you for joining us. I am Kevin Cook and I am one of the co-founders and the CEO of TreasurySpring. I'm delighted to be joined today by Carl Adams, Senior Director from ICD, to talk about how the integration between our two firms is going to bring value to all institutional cash investors. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So the way that this is going to work is I'll give a brief introduction to TreasurySpring. Carl will then talk a little bit about ICD for those of you that don't know them. And that'll be followed by a demo of the TreasurySpring platform and how that integrates with ICD, what your user journey will look like, followed by a little bit of information around how you can see your positions in ICD and what that integration means in terms of their Transparency Plus product and other forms of reporting. Followed by a little bit of Q&A. The aim is to get you all back at your desks and out of here by 1:30. So we'll try and keep it relatively brief. If you do have any questions as we're going through, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section at the bottom, and we will do our very best to answer them at the end. Without further ado, I will get started. So for those of you that don't know TreasurySpring, we're a London-based financial technology firm founded in 2016, aiming to build the best global cash investment platform for all institutional holders of large cash balances looking to place them for term from 1 week out to a year. I guess, why did we build TreasurySpring in the first place? It was because over many years, what we saw was that there was a huge gulf between the best available term cash investments and the available term cash investments for most of the institutional market. So we've worked with large banks, large hedge funds, large asset management treasuries over time. A lot of those folks have lots of financial infrastructure, market connectivity, and as a result, they have access to a broad universe of high quality instruments offering good risk-adjusted returns. For most of you on this call, you've probably got access in the term market only to deposits with your relationship banks. In our view, that's a suboptimal position. So we built TreasurySpring really to solve that, to provide a better way for people to invest their excess cash without the need for any financial infrastructure. How does it work? Well, there's one simple onboarding with us. The aim is to keep that onboarding as quick as humanly possible in the institutional world, much quicker than even opening a single bank account. And that onboarding will give you access to all of the products that we have on the platform today, as well as all of those that we onboard in the future. So today we offer well over 300 products across 6 different currencies, and we service over 100 institutional clients, ranging from FTSE 100 corporates through large fund managers from various different sectors, charities, family offices, insurance companies, and many others. With that, I will hand over to Carl to give a little bit of background on ICD.
Thanks, Kevin. Hi, I'm Carl Adams, Senior Director at ICD. I've been at ICD for nearly 12 years now. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun? My primary responsibilities are business development and client relations within the UK. So a little bit about ICD. ICD is a liquidity platform offering primarily money market funds and short duration products. But we do partner with organisations such as TreasurySpring to provide access to other investment products. Now, the overall aim of ICD is to simplify everything to do with liquidity management, from account opening, trading, and post-trade activities such as reporting and analytics. Plus, we have an excellent client services desk to assist investors with any questions or issues that may arise. More recently, the development of ICD has been efficiency through technology, such as treasury management system integrations, automated settlement, and some other areas that we'll be covering during this webinar. Historically, the range of products available to investors in the short-term space has been quite limited. And I'm excited to be working with Kevin and TreasurySpring to add their fixed-term fund offering to the ICD platform. Fixed-term funds will provide an additional tool for investors to look at managing surplus cash that they don't need in the short term and to offer a material pickup in return, especially in the current rising rate environment. So at this stage, I'll hand back to Kevin to explain more about TreasurySpring and fixed-term funds.
Thanks very much, Carl. I will just pull up a little screen recording that we can use in order to talk people through the platform. But before I do, it's probably worth explaining what a fixed term fund is, because many of you on the call won't understand it. Think of a fixed term fund as akin to a term deposit. So it's for a fixed term, just like a term deposit, and it provides exposure to a single underlying issuer, just like a term deposit. It can also be found in fixed term form, or something that looks more like a notice account. Again, difference between term deposits and notice accounts that I'm sure all of you will be familiar with. The difference with a fixed term fund is that inside a particular fixed term fund can sit any particular piece of short dated investment grade fixed income. Always one for one. So I'll talk a bit about the different products in a minute, but before I do, worth just remembering, fixed term funds are always one single exposure. They're always for a fixed term or a notice period, and they always are 100% maturity matched. So there's no liquidity constraint in that if you want your money back on the maturity date, the only thing you have to believe is that the counterparty is going to pay you back. There's no maturity transformation. There's no reliance on secondary markets for that liquidity. So 100% maturity matched, direct exposure to a single underlying issuer. So with that, I'll just press play and start the screen recording. So when you come into ICD, the first place you'll see Treasury Spring is by our rate card, which will appear, I think, under the other investments tab. Shout, Carl, if I've got that wrong. But people will then see this rate card, and the rate card will talk about the various different products that we offer through the platform. So those fall into 5 different broad verticals. You've got government, offering exposure to single government bills or bonds. You've got SSA, so that's supranational, sub-sovereign and agency, things like the World Bank or the EIB, often AAA rated, for example. You've got secured financial, so this is accessing the repo market. Now, many of you have probably looked at the repo market over time, realized that there's a lot of complexity and what have you associated with it. We're simplifying that and delivering it out through a few keystrokes and mouse clicks. We've also got financial, offering unsecured bank exposure, and corporate, a more nascent version of the platform. Some of you might have seen that we recently announced an exciting partnership with the London Stock Exchange around the corporate space and delivering sustainable corporate issuance out to the market. On the platform, we offer products in multiple terms, as I mentioned, ranging from a week out to a year. And on the rate card, you can see here, in items in green, pricing's improved since the last rate card. Red, it's got worse. And orange is brand new products. We operate across multiple different credit levels. Everything's investment grade, so single A- or better. And we operate across multiple currencies. So today, sterling, dollars, euro, Polish zloty, South African rand, and Canadian dollars. Lots of different options. As I said, well over 300 across those different currencies, and organized always into those 5 different verticals. Through the rate card, you'll be able to log into the Treasury Spring portal. And just to show you briefly what the onboarding process looks like. Onboarding is fully digital. We'll take all publicly available information that we can, put that up on the portal, and then all other information that a client needs to complete can just be entered manually through the portal. That will then get sent off to our KYC and AML team, our fund administrator, and all of the interaction around that onboarding also happens digitally. So hopefully a much more seamless experience than people are used to when often opening accounts with more traditional banks or other providers. Once people have completed that onboarding, you can come in and amend the information at any point in time, and then we'll aim to get that turned around, often in the case of regulated or listed entities, inside of 24 hours. You can have multiple entities listed on the platform. So if you've got different entities within the group, you can control all of those and execute for all of those through our platform. On those different entities, you can put in place different approval processes, different default currencies, different ways that you want to view the underlying information. And also, if you want to, you can hard code investment guidelines into the platform. So you can put in, as you have here, minimum rating criteria, maximum term criteria, really any of your own internal investment guidelines that fit with your treasury policy can be hard coded. Coming to the available FTF screen, once you've onboarded, you can see all of these pretty colored dots are individual fixed term funds that you can purchase. Multiple different ways to filter these, either according to the sector that you're particularly looking at, or by picking a particular time period. So if you're only interested in investing out to a dividend date or a date that you know you've got an acquisition to make, again, you can invest and match to those dates. You can also hover over any individual dot, and that will bring up details of the underlying fixed term fund. On the platform, all names are transparent. You have 100% clear visibility as to the underlying issuer that you are going to place your funds with. can set your criteria here. So in this case, we're looking for something of 100 days or less, rating of single A, and a minimum yield of 1%. Isn't it nice to be able to say that for the first time in a decade? Then you can come in, view all of the information. If particular products might not be available on certain days, you can click to be notified when they do next become available if they're particularly interesting to you. And you can view much more information about the underlying obligor by clicking on its name. So it brings up detail about the individual fixed term fund and also about the obligor, including in relation to its ESG characteristics, which is something we're finding of increasing interest to our client base. Once you've decided what fixed term fund you'd like to subscribe for, click on the subscribe button and up will come your trade blotter. Inside of that, review all of the details, put in the amount. As you type, it'll give you a handy widget to make sure that you type the right numbers, get the right order of magnitude. It'll tell you exactly what you're going to get back at maturity to the penny or cent, and what the annualized income would be if you were to roll that product for a year. You have the option to choose to automatically roll fixed term funds, so on maturity, roll into a new one, or the money to be withdrawn and come straight out to the underlying bank account. Once you've entered into the transaction, you get the opportunity for a callback from our fund administrator. If there's internal approval processes, that message will then go off internally to other users, letting them know that they need to come and approve the underlying transaction. If you then need to log in and understand exactly where money needs to be sent or check cutoff times or look at any of the other detail around the fixed term fund issuance process, all of that's found in the cell operating procedures for the particular product, all of which are housed on the platform. Just to be 100% clear, whenever you subscribe for a fixed term fund, your only credit exposure is to the particular underlying issuer that you've chosen, not to any other issuer on the platform or indeed to TreasurySpring in any way. Once I've purchased a fixed term fund, I can come into the portfolio screen. In that portfolio screen, I can see all of my fixed term funds that I own in settled. I can see any ones that are upcoming, so not yet issued, but I've entered into transactions for. And again, I can search all of this information in the same way as I could on the available FTFs tab. So by currency, by entity, by maturity date, by status. Once I've decided that I'm going to purchase my fixed term fund and that's out into the wild, then at any point during the life of that fixed term fund, I can choose to change my maturity action. So that maturity action is what I showed you earlier. So the ability to either automatically automatically roll or withdraw or leave the money on hold on the platform until you decide what to do. In this case, I've selected withdraw, given us the reason that you need the funds for working capital purposes, obviously rated the platform 5 stars, and then hit confirm. That action is now automatically changed and the funds will appear back in your bank account on the morning of the maturity date. The other thing that I can do through the platform is I might decide that I've placed a fixed term fund for a particular amount, in this case, nearly 61 million, but I don't need all of it back, but I could do with some of it back. So in this case, I just split the fixed term fund into 2. So here I've created one of 31 million and one of 30 million. You can see that that then gives rise to 2 individual fixed term funds. I can select one of those and change the maturity action from withdraw down to automatically roll, and then the other 30 had come out. So super easy to manage the process, super easy to make really simple decisions around what to do with the portfolio once we've got it. All positions can be exported to Excel. And if you come into the entities, then all of your statements and contract notes are available on the platform for people to review at their leisure. And indeed, we can send those on to fund administrators should they need to. But as Carl's about to show you, there's probably a better way that a lot of you guys would like to receive that reporting information and how we can deliver that back into your ICD portal so that you can see all of your cash investments, whether it be just your FTFs, just your money funds, but in this case, both your money funds and your fixed term funds all together, all in the same place. So I will just stop sharing that and try and reshare the deck. Just give me a second. Hopefully that is working, and I'll hand back over to Carl.
Thanks, Kevin. Very impressive. As Kevin said, I'm going to discuss a little more about the benefits to the investor of the ICD and TreasurySpring partnership, and also expand on how ICD uses technology to introduce further efficiencies. The rate card that Kevin showed will be available on the ICD platform, located in the additional products menu, as can be seen here. And as Kevin identified, the investor is able to click on the link in the rate card and launch TreasurySpring, as Kevin demonstrated. So what I'm going to show you now is what happens with the data flow. So when the fixed term fund trade has been placed in the TreasurySpring platform, the details of the trade will flow into the ICD platform, which means that the investor will be able to see details of both money market funds and fixed term funds, plus any other investment products that have flown into ICD. The important thing, as Kevin identified, is that they're all in one place for you to see them. The details shown will include the entity, invested type of investment, account details, maturity date, currency, interest rate. So lots of information, and that's all the information you obviously need to manage and monitor your investment portfolio. You can see how the data flows and how they are shown in the ICD portal, highlighting placing the trade on the TreasurySpring platform and the data flowing into ICD. Okay, ICD's Transparency Plus module allows investors to analyse and produce reports on their investment portfolio. With ICD and TreasurySpring working together, this means that Transparency Plus will also include all your fixed term fund balances. Transparency Plus allows the investor to see a lot of details across their investment portfolio, seeing how their different investment products are structured and making up their overall portfolio. Looking at items like counterparty exposure, how does the underlying exposures in money market funds and fixed term funds combine? Are there concentrations to individual counterparties that need to be addressed? Country exposure, all your underlying counterparty exposures are aggregated for all asset classes. Are there any countries that you have exposure to that should raise any concern? Maturity profile, money market funds are T+0, so instant access. But if you also have term deposits and fixed term funds, how do the maturity profiles compare? Is this in line with your expectation and demands in your cash flow? And finally, interest rates. How is the overall return on your investment portfolio performing? All of these areas are covered in Transparency Plus and can be used to produce comprehensive reports, as we can see on the screen here. This is where the technology and the partnership really comes into play. It will allow the investor to access multiple asset classes, monitor the wider investment portfolio, analyse the investment portfolio, and finally prepare reports on their investment portfolio. So at this point, I'll now hand back to Kevin.
Thanks very much, Carl. So that sort of concludes the meat of the demo. We managed to get through it in record time. But just to sort of highlight some of the benefits of the partnership to people, just to remind them, in addition to what Carl said there. So I guess what we see from most of our large corporate clients is that they don't only invest in their relationship banks. They don't only invest in money market funds. They don't only invest in fixed term funds. Really, I think the conclusion that people are coming to is that there's a stool with 3 legs on it. And you want to have all of those 3 legs to make sure that it doesn't end up a little bit wonky. And so for us, you've got fixed term funds. Those fixed term funds can provide you with term exposure, but also can provide you with exposure that can be lower risk, for instance, than your term deposit portfolio. You can get access to the government, access to supranational sub-sovereigns and agencies, and also access to the repo market, which, you know, for many of our clients has been something they've been looking at for years and years, but have never found a simple, easy way to do it. So solving for that, giving people that term exposure, but also exposure to other asset classes that help to diversify and reduce risk. And as Carl says, also increase return on their portfolios versus the cash that they've got overnight, which they should leave overnight because it's there for liquidity purposes, for things that really need to be managed in day-to-day operations. Almost everybody we speak to has some pool of cash that isn't needed daily for operational. And in this rising rate environment, as Carl mentioned, if you leave all of that cash overnight, you're effectively paying away for liquidity that you don't necessarily need. The other benefit that I just highlight before we go to questions is that we offer products in multiple different currencies and growing. So today we've got products in Canadian dollars, in Singapore dollars, in South African rand, and in Polish zloty. Products and currencies that people generally don't necessarily have access to if they're sitting outside of their home country. And so if you've got money in money funds in your home currencies, but you don't necessarily have an obvious home in some of those less core currencies, then we can provide a really useful tool to be able to go and access everything from government assets through to unsecured deposit risk in those particular vehicles. Again, all through the same platform, all integrated, and all of that information flowing back into your Transparency Plus reporting. So,
Kevin, I'd just like to pick up on the point of the currencies. I think that's a very good point. Money market funds aren't available in all currencies or have limited access. And I think certainly with a number of joint clients that we've been talking to, that's one particular area of interest, is where they can actually access currencies that they can't get with money market funds. That's a very big positive of the partnership.
Thanks, Carl. Yeah, so I do have a couple of questions that have come in, so thank you to people for posting those. The first one is there any cost for accessing the TreasurySpring platform, and are there any costs associated with ICD functionality like Transparency Plus? So I'll answer for TreasurySpring. So for us, no costs at all to access the platform, no sign-up fees, no onboarding fees, no regular bills coming through the post for anything. You will only ever get charged the amount that you see on your underlying FTF. So when that amount, the maturity amount that you saw to the penny, cent, whatever it is, that is exactly what you will receive, net of all fees, costs, and everything else. Never any other fees that will come from us. Carl, on ICD?
Very similar, no cost at all for any of the functionality. So no cost for the trading, ICD, money market funds, no cost for any of the integrations, no cost for reporting, etc. And there's no hidden costs either. So if you use a money market fund direct with the asset manager, the net yield that you're getting will be exactly the same as if you use that same asset manager through ICD.
Yeah, and just to be clear, that's also the same with us. So you'll get the same rates through ICD as you would get if you came to us directly. One more question. How easy is it to set up and implement the integration? Carl, do you want to take that one?
Yes, certainly. It's very easy. First of all, you need to become a joint client. So sign up with Kevin. He obviously, or TreasurySpring, he obviously showed you how that works and how simple that is. So once you're a client of ICD and TreasurySpring, all you need to do is notify us. And then what we'll do is show you how the integration works, and then the data will start flowing through. So we'll be able to get that set up on your behalf. It's a very easy process.
Yes, indeed. And no additional work required on our side either. You just simply need to tell us that you want the information to flow back into ICD, and then we'll make sure that that gets enabled. One more. Do I need to complete any additional forms or paperwork to access new counterparties through TreasurySpring? No, absolutely not. So I guess this is some of the beauty of what we've built, is that through that single onboarding, you get access to a whole host of banks and other issuers that you never have to have any direct relationship with. So it might be that you see someone's rate once and you like it, and that's great, and then that rolls off, and you never transact with them again. You've never had to onboard with them. You've never had to have annoying salespeople phoning you up and trying to sell you other products. You've just said, that's a product, it's in the market, I like it, great, I'm going to go and buy it. And as we onboard new counterparties over time, they just automatically get added to the platform, and you have the ability to go and purchase them as you see fit and as they fit within your investment guidelines. I think that's it, unless any more questions come through. So with that, I guess just spend a minute just briefly to thank Carl very much for firstly joining us here, but also for working with us on getting this integration up, which we think is super, super exciting. And we're already seeing value to some of our joint clients, and we expect there to be many, many more coming. And also to thank all of you for joining. Just before I go, I will put up the contact page. So contact details here on the TreasurySpring side. Feel free to reach out to me directly or to John, our head of sales, or Oscar, who looks after most of our corporate clients. And then on ICD, you've got Carl and his team as well. Yeah, please do get in touch if there's anything that you'd like to know further, or if this has piqued your interest in some way.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a good day.